from Israel in the Galilee. I think we're on the 24th of August. Let me verify that. And we are. And it's roughly 7:35 in the morning here in the not so holy land at 77 degrees. It's 78 degrees, and we're going to go to 96 today. So I already have the AC running, so the dogs stay cool, and I stay cool. Okay. So what we're going to discuss today is what's going on with Iran predominantly, and it looks like war is about ready to come back. Iran is talking weird. They're saying, well, we're not in war and we're not in peace. You know, they don't like that. I'll go through their quotes with you. It's pretty weird what's going on. I don't think it's such a great thing. Hang on a minute. Uh, I'm going to try something and we might get cut off, but let's see. If we do, I'll just start it up again in a minute. I don't think we'll get cut off, but we'll find out. No, that's not working. This'll work. Okay, I think we're still connected. Um, Let me take a look. As far as I can tell, we're still connected. Okay. All right. So there's a lot of news about Iran, and then we're going to cover what I promised you yesterday about life in Africa, living in Africa, moving to Africa, and living well, and living safe, and living cheap, and living in countries that are predominantly Churchianity Christian and predominantly speaking English. Imagine that. Living on a fraction of what you spend in America, and you're eating good, like fish caught that morning, fruit picked the day before, cheap housing, crime rates much lower than Europe and America and Canada, and great weather, beautiful oceans. I'm going to go through all this with you today and tell you where these countries are and what it costs to live there and what's good and what's bad about it, and if you're interested, how to do it. And I'm very worried about people that are homeless. There's one of our people that was homeless and has health problems, and I haven't heard from this person in days. And I suggested to this person that they go to another jurisdiction where they might be able to get housing cheaper and easier. Well, not housing, get welfare for housing, and I don't know what happened. Maybe this person went and has no connectivity, or maybe something bad happened. The person may be in the hospital or pretty sick. I don't know. Or this person might be upset with me and just went away. I can't tell. The other person that was homeless that was supposed to move into a house, the house fell through because it was intended for people that are addicted to alcohol or narcotics, drugs. And since this person is a believer and a good, always tithing or giving offerings, whatever you want to call, is not a drug addict or an alcoholic, and is not going to lie and say, "Yeah, call me needle," so the house fell through. So again, I'll talk about going to another jurisdiction to try to get yourself some housing. I'll discuss it a little bit with you. I researched it online. I never lived it. I think you'll find the background, well, the move to Africa. There's a lot of countries in Africa you can move to, depending on what you got for an income. And a predominant amount of them are English speaking, loaded with Christians. Not that you're a churchianity people, but you see, what we're doing here is basically preaching to people that read the Bible, went to church, and stuff like that. We're not out there preaching to people that are, pimps and car thieves and bank robbers and, alcoholics laying in the gutter. That's not our audience, because number one, they're probably never going to watch us. Number two, let's say they get saved, where are we going to take them? How are we going to work with them? How are we going to help them? How are we going to nurture them? You see, that when you read the book of Acts, they were doing like house meetings and working with these people, helping them, feeding them, stuff like that. Okay. I think part of my meal program fell apart. I don't think that half. I don't want to get into details online, but I think part of it fell apart. The other part, I think, is still alive. But well, I'll ask you to pray for that later. All right, let's go into the live stream and see what we got here. Okay, looks like we got ourselves a live stream. Sound. Sound. Okay, the sound looks good. Let me put a post up real quick, and then we'll get going. And let me check for typos. Now we're good on typos. And let me pin this. Make sure it takes. Okay. All right. Quick reminder: if anything bad happens to the live stream, like it starts buffering, freezing, sound goes, the picture gets weird, it freezes, anything like that, those of you that have YouTube Premium, in other words, you pay the approximately $10 a month, I think it's just gone up, and you don't get any ads in your premium music, go into your studio and it's not that hard. Navigate to the help, and you say need more help, and you're eventually going to be able to speak to somebody in a live chat or on a voice from YouTube, and tell them the name of the channel and the name of the video, and tell them what's happening, and tell them you suspect it's sabotage from within YouTube. They'll tell you you're crazy and all that, okay? Because they're not going to admit it, but they know it goes on. Tell them that, and hopefully they catch the person, and they might prosecute them with the criminal courts. They might sue him. They will probably minimally fire him and blacklist him. Okay, so he's not going to get another job very easily. So be just if any of you have, if you don't have the premium, you're not going to be able to contact them, and don't do it unless you see the picture go bad, or the sound go bad, because we have had sabotage from them inside. So you just report it, and hopefully they catch them while they're doing it, and that's it. They're toast. Not only that, they'll get YouTube probably has retired FBI agents working there, and they'll interrogate this person, and they'll have to, if there's others that are doing it, they'll probably have to give them up, and they're going to be in a lot of trouble. So if you can do that, okay? Even if the broadcast is cut off completely, do it anyway, you could say things like, I don't know if the creator, that's me, really knows what happened. He may not know, he's just speaking, things like that, and it'll get, well, number one, they'll resolve it, they'll get the broadcast back, and stuff like that. Okay, so, I'm going to do some praise, and thank you for that. I'm going to do some praise, being a Bible believing site. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay, I'm going to do a quick prayer. My Heavenly Father, Yehovah B'Shem, Yeshua HaMashiach, I pray for a good live stream, and a good, consequently becomes a good video with a good anointing, and I pray that your anointing helps the people, helps me, and we have a good time, peace, joy, calm, rest, and everything comes out well. We have no problems, no attacks, no problems technically or anything else, no equipment droppage or failure or breakage. And I submit this to you, my Heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. Okay, and let's go into prayer requests, and we'll get all the homework done before all the people come in. Okay, so we've got a prayer request for MW to get housing. MW to get housing, a good place to live for MW. Okay. All right. I'm going to talk a little bit about the homeless thing. It's distressing me. Okay, we're all spread out and we can't, I mean, if we were all in one place, we could probably make arrangements to somebody who's got an extra room and let the person, crash there until they could get things more under control, which could take a few months. But we don't have that capability right now. And everybody's so spread out, and I don't know where everybody lives and all this other stuff. So, moving along. I believe there's a nationwide phone number called 211. I could be wrong, I think it's 211. And that's for people that have no place to sleep that night. Okay? And the way it works in better days is you'd call up, they'd want your social security number, some other information, and they would reserve a hotel room for you in the area. And you would be able to check in beginning at 3 p.m., probably until 9 or 10 at night. You could check in and have the room until 11 in the morning. Now, if you got to know the people and you were in the same hotel, they probably would not let you stay there until 3 o'clock again, because you might not get booked in the same hotel and they're going to be violating the terms. And the idea of that is not to get you so comfortable. It's not a place to live, it's a temporary thing, and you got to call every day, and you could go to different hotels. And they actually will send taxis to pick you up and take you to the hotel in some jurisdictions, okay? Now, some of the bigger cities, like what's a big city? Well, I don't know if these big cities are bad, but a big city would be like Chicago, New York, Miami, places like that. They're not, it's very difficult to get into this because they're full. Okay? That's a problem in some places. I don't think the entire United States is full. You could try calling a different jurisdiction and seeing if they have availability. But the problem with that is when you dial those that 211 number, it connects you based on the region you're calling from. So if, let's say, you were in Miami and you wanted to go to Jacksonville and you wanted to see if Jacksonville, Florida had any openings, and you called from Miami, it would connect you to Miami. So what you would have to do is go to some of these free telephone services you could find on the internet. There's a bunch of them. And get a number in Jacksonville, Florida. It may be difficult to do, but it may not be. I don't know. And then get on that phone number over the internet and call it, and it would probably connect you to Jacksonville, and then you could see if there's anything available. The other thing you could try doing is calling them on an internet phone line on a WhatsApp or something, and if they have a WhatsApp, the odds are overwhelming if they realize you're calling from outside to see if you can get housing there, they'll, I would give it a 99%, well, 95% chance that they're going to tell you no, even if the answer isn't no. These people lie. So, not every one of them, but a lot of them. So, it's it's rough. You know, you need to. I don't believe every state and every city in the United States is at a point where they're not doing this, where they're full up. I don't think it's that bad. I think if you're in some of these big cities, it's bad. Okay, now they give you the weekend. You get to check in Friday afternoon, and you don't have to leave till 11 o'clock Monday. So you're basically doing this on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So you got 4 days where you're checking in and checking out, and 3 where you don't have to. Kind of 3 anyway. It's about 3 days. So, you know, you go in at 3 o'clock or so Friday, and you leave Monday morning at 11. It's pretty good relief. You know, you're sleeping Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday night in the same bed. You can wash your clothes, hang them up. They probably have washers and dryers you put coins in. They probably don't want you cooking in the meal, but in some of the inside, some of these places, you might be able to. They may not care, and you can plug in your own hot plate. So you can go to a store and buy a single hot plate for a very cheap price. I don't know, $10, $12, or, you know, not a lot of money. And plug it in, and then you could do things like what? Well, you could heat up water for soup. You could get powdered soup. You can get ramen noodle things. You could get other things that you need to heat up. You could also get yourself a little skillet, and you could cook things in there. But if they smell you cooking in there, they might shut you down and throw you out, say you violated terms of service. I don't think they're going to let you do that. If you had the plate and you were just boiling water or heating things in a can, maybe, you know, stuff like that, like we're making ramen noodles, or, you know, you could get packets of spaghetti noodles that look like ramen noodles, and mashed potatoes and things like that. And you basically just, it's a cup, and you put the hot boiling water in there, and you mix it up, and the smell is minimal, and you could probably get away with that. So you could eat food there. Now, of course, you could bring cold food in, and they're not going to do anything about it. You know, you could bring in breads, and, you know, I mean, I don't, whatever you want, canned vegetables and cans of tuna. I don't think they'd have a problem with eating that kind of stuff. Another route is if you've got health problems that are significant, you go to an emergency room in a hospital, and you'll wait, and they'll treat you for free, and then they're going to either discharge you or admit you, depending on what's wrong. If they admit you, then while you're in the hospital, ask to see the social worker. Tell the nurse you need to see the social worker. And the social worker will probably 90% come and see you, probably almost 100%. Tell the social worker that you're homeless and you don't think you'll recover effectively living in the street, and, you know, I can't walk, it hurts, and if I don't walk around, the police will arrest me, and, you know, and they might do something for you. What they do sometimes is they go to the doctors, how long, you know, will this person be? The doctor might say, well, they need, probably they need a good 2 weeks to rest, or they might need 2 months, depending on your age and what's wrong. So the social worker might get you a hotel room, okay, where you don't check in and out. They give you a hotel room for a month or 2 months, or if they say you need it for long term, in other words, you're not going to get better, you can't really make it on the street, then they get you to hotel long term until they can get you into housing. Now, I don't know what happens if you've got a driver's license or an ID card from Idaho and you go to Oregon. I mean, I'm just making two places up. They may say, well, you're not one of our people, we're not doing anything for you. I don't know. I don't know. How that works. I really don't know. So I heard Beverly Hills doesn't do this unless you can convince them you used to live in Beverly Hills before you were homeless. And then they probably put you up in a decent place and stuff like that, because they don't want to see a lot of people sleeping on the streets. So it depends on where you're going and what's going on. You might find some jurisdictions that just tell you, no, we don't have any place, and if you sleep on the street, the police will arrest you. Or what the police do sometimes instead, I understand, is they write you a vagrancy citation and then you got to appear. If you don't appear, then you could have a bench warrant for failure to appear. So if you appear and you tell the judge that you're homeless and you have no money, and all you get is $100 or $200 in food stamps and blah blah blah, what would the judge do? Well, it's hard to say. Probably suspend the payments for a while, or until further notice, or discharge the case, or get punitive with you and say, trying to set an example and say, okay, you gotta do 2 weeks in jail, stuff like that. If you can't pay the fine, you gotta go to jail. They may put you in for a month. See, they gotta be careful about this. Jails are full, so they can't really just say, okay, come to jail, because if they keep doing that, they fill their jail up. They want their jail for people that are doing things like assault on the street. Hey, give me some money, I need my, no, boom, bada bang, bada boom, okay, that guy they want to put in jail. Molesters of children, rapists, burglars, people breaking into cars, shoplifters, people kiting checks, bad checks, stolen credit cards, prostitution. They want these people in jail and off the streets because it's going to ruin their precious little community. They don't want any of that going on. They don't want their residents plagued with people breaking into their cars. They don't want people going to the houses of the residents, at 10:30 in the morning and ringing the doorbell, and if nobody's home, they kick a window or a door in and see what they could grab and rob before the cops come. They don't want that. Okay, so they may not put you in jail. I don't know what they'll do. A lot of people that are homeless, if they get put in a minimum security jail, it could be lousy, and depending on the jurisdiction, if you're in a big city, it'll be lousy, but if you're in a smaller community where the cops might actually give a hoot that running the prison, you're in for 2 weeks or a month, you're going to be, for something stupid like vagrancy, you're going to be in a minimum security setting, and you're going to have, hot meals, and you're going to have medical access to medical. You'll have showers, stuff like that. And the rapes and the assaults and all that stuff are probably fairly minimal in the minimum security, but you can't guarantee that. If you get in a federal facility, that would probably be your most secure place because they take great care to stop assaults, and you know it happens, but they try harder usually. You know, when they detect somebody, I can't tell you that it's a secure thing. I'm not telling you to go in jail. When I worked in law enforcement a million years ago, I remember more than once, a guy would open up the patrol car and say, "Take me to jail," and we would just drag him out right away. First of all, we didn't search him. We don't know what he's got. He's behind us. Now, you got various screens there. You got mesh, or you might have plastic back then. But we don't know what the heck he had. So out of the car he goes, hi-ho, right away. And what if he had a gun? He shoots it through the seat or the shit. We don't know what he's got. So you get him out of there first. And then you talk to him, and then we would normally refer him to some kind of social service, which is what the guy really needs, not prison. Um, they're a lot of them are just real confused, and they don't know what else to do. So anyway, you could try if you're homeless. Now, what I'm going to be doing today later on is talking to you about alternative places to live. I put up a survey somebody sent me, one of my people that helps me with articles, and which is valuable, sent me the thing to live comfortably for a family of 4 in the United States. Practically every single state is over $200,000 income. So that means if you're making today $75,000 a year and you're by yourself, you're probably getting by. Okay? And I use the word getting by, which means you have no savings and you're managing to pay your bills. You might pay them late. You might get them on time. You're eating. You're not having great meals. You're eating. You're not eating out. You're getting by. You got an old car. You hope it holds up. Things like this. You're getting by. Okay? Somebody making $40,000 a year by themselves may not be getting by. Okay? So I'm really focusing to make this work, guys. You either need to be working online so you can work anywhere in the world. Okay? And if you're working online, you probably don't need me to tell you any of this. You've got money coming in and this, that, and the other, okay? And then what I am speaking to are the people that are on military, disability, regular civilian, Social Security disability, Social Security retirement, military retirement pensions, or some private company pensions. So in other words, I'm really speaking to people that are getting an income every month from a reliable source. Now, when the daughter of Babylon goes, that's going to go away. But don't worry, because you read when it's going down, the Israelites and the believers are leaving to go to Israel. So you'll be going to Israel pretty quick too. Maybe not the same day, but it'll be the end, okay? The whole economy in the world is going to go tipsy-turvy when America goes, okay? So I wouldn't tell you to sit up night on that one. it could go bad and it may not go bad. And the way to prevent about that is to keep some, to go be able to spend less than what you have coming in every month and keep some of the local currency around to tide you through a period of time like this if you need it, okay? So, anyway, I'm going to tell you about Africa later. There's several countries. You got to listen to this. Good weather, very safe, very cheap to live, good food. I mean, what's not to like? Well, what you're going to be missing there is you're not going to be able to afford to buy American and European food. You have to eat the local economy, which is going to mean a lot of fresh killed meat, range fed. It's going to mean a lot of meat without a lot of steroids and antibiotics. It's going to mean fresh fruit and vegetables and fresh baked bread and stuff like that. You're going to go to outdoor markets and stuff like that. You're not going to go to the big Safeways and buy stuff coming out of America and Europe. That's for the people that got incomes of, $5,000 a month or $4,500 or at least $3,500. They want to play the game and eat the American food and waste their money on it. They can do it, okay? So you're not going to be able to eat Kellogg's cornflakes. You'll be able to eat the local cornflakes, which aren't going to taste the same. I've lived in several countries, okay? The cornflakes are going to look the same, they're not going to taste the same, okay? The exceptions to that is there might be some countries where they make it under license of Kellogg's, but that's going to be expensive. So you can eat the local stuff. So you may not know what cereal you like. So you have to figure it out. But they got their local cereals and they're way, way cheap. So I'm going to get into all this with you later. But let's deal with what's going on with the war. And we'll see what happens. We'll talk about what's going on. All right, I got to get to the beginning of my notes, which is here. Iranian official says the support for the new sanctions from Trump would be an act of war. And also they're directing that at the other countries in the region or anywhere that is actually following Trump's plan. So China stood up against Trump's plan and said they're going to continue to do business with Iran. So I don't know what Trump's going to do now with China. The Iranians say the war is likely to resume in a few days. They're waiting for the Treasury Secretary of America to announce the details of this economic war against the Iranians, which is supposed to be revealed today, Monday. Today is Monday. And the Iranians are saying they'll go after anybody in the region or probably anywhere in the world who supports these American sanctions. In other words, cooperates with the Americans. Okay? As a reflection of this, this is what we see. Greece moves their Patriot missile batteries to Crete as Iran threatens U.S. bases in Europe. So as a result of these sanctions, the Iranians are intending to go after American bases in Europe. The American bases in the Middle East region have been pretty well decimated or busted up already. So this is serious, and I think it's fairly inevitable. A guy named Mahdi Raimi, head of the Iranian parliament's news agency, in an interview with the Lebanese channel Al Maya Den, that's the Lebanese news channel. What they said was Iran has received an invitation to join the Mecca Agreement, the tripartite, Pakistan, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia trilogy. They call it the Mecca Agreement. And they invited Iran to join. And Iran says they're considering the matter. Now, we need to take a look at what the heck is really going on here, because we're not understanding it the way it's being presented to us in the media. Because the media was telling us that this was a mutual defense pact to deter Iran, and we're seeing that the Houthis are doing nothing about the attack against the. They're doing nothing about the Houthis attacking Saudi Arabia routinely. So something's wrong with this picture. So I'm not so sure that it was represented to us the same way that it really is. I think they're forming a coalition against Israel and America. Uh-huh. And they're trying to see who they can get into it. They're trying to get Egypt into it. They're probably trying to get Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, and all that, but if you let Iran in, then the members of this agreement have to be favorable towards Iran and negative towards America. In other words, continue trading with Iran. It doesn't sound like we really know what this pact really is about. If they're going to do this with Iran, they're turning on America. And that could be exactly what's going on. They're turning against America. But something's wrong with this picture. But I think it's great news for prophecy fulfillment. Hip hip hooray! Zechariah 12 comes. Okay. One year ago, give or take a couple of days or a day or two, the Iranian currency, I think it's called the rial, I don't know, something like that, stood at 900,000 rials to the dollar. Today, it's no longer 900,000 rials to the dollar. It's 2 million. So their currency went down way more than it was a year ago. I mean, their currency is comical. I would think that they're probably printing million and billion and trillion dollar banknotes, pieces of paper money. Otherwise, people are going to need like a suitcase on wheels to go shopping in the stores. The Syrian guy is trying to make some sort of peace deal with Israel, but it's not a good peace deal. Okay, it's crooked. So when you read that, you have to understand that you're getting a tainted version of reality. What the guy wants is Israel to withdraw from the Syrian Golan Heights that we took from Bashar Assad, basically, and also we're occupying in Syria by our border to keep his idiots away from us and protect our people. He wants us to give that up. And then he'll make some sort of deal with us. And he recently had a meeting with America, some representatives, to try to work this thing out. But you can't trust this Al-Qaeda guy with a new paint job and a suit. You can't trust him. Netanyahu is not likely to move on this, especially since the guy brought Turkey in on about 12 bases and letting Turkey open up bases in his country with their military. He's killed Druze, he's killed Christians, he's killed Alawites, he's killed Kurds, he's a bloodthirsty murderer. And Netanyahu, of course, isn't trusting him at all. He turned on Trump when he allowed Russia to come in and open up their two existing bases, one on the Mediterranean and the other one an air base, which gives Russia a base on the Mediterranean to fight NATO. Now, Giuliani wanted Putin to give back Bashar Assad, but Putin wouldn't do it. If Putin gave his word to Bashar Assad to protect him, he means it. So Netanyahu is messing with Erdogan now from Turkey. Now we'll see what Erdogan wants to do. I don't think Erdogan has the guts to do anything right now. If his alliance with Pakistan and Saudi Arabia grows, he will get guts. If he starts up with Israel now, he's going to get hundreds of billions of dollars in damage the first couple of days of the fighting. He's also going to lose a lot of warships. And if he pushes it, he's going to lose his infrastructure. See, what they do is they lay siege to us. They don't exactly invade. They could be attacking us from the borders, but it seems more like they blockade us. Nothing in, nothing out. And that's when in Zechariah 12, verse 6, the two witnesses burn them up. So we're not exactly going to be too quick to do anything with Syria. They found out that Trump had to file a stock disclosure statement for the month of June, and he made 1,000 trades in June, not telling us what they are. So obviously they're profiteering, the whole Trump clan. Yeah, and the patriots that, were in the military, are in the military, that supports Trump, really doing you a disservice. Iran is talking with words like earthquake-like retaliation over Trump's economic D-Day threats. A D-Day is a physical invasion, okay? Let's get this straight. Trump did not physically invade Iran, okay? What Trump is trying to do is bring Iran to their knees so he doesn't have to wipe the country out, okay? Reality. Wiping the country out is something Trump doesn't want to get a reputation for. He doesn't want to be called Adolf Trump, and he wants to see the country, become more the way it was when the Shah was there, where the people could live their lives in peace, not live under this dictatorship. And it is the Shah was a dictator too, but he was a generous one. The people that lived in Iran liked the Shah. He didn't bother the people, He left them alone, let them make money. He made money. He made lots and lots and lots of money, but people were able to make money. And he couldn't keep it under control. The Muslims overthrew him. They didn't like him because, if you wanted to live under Sharia law, he didn't care. But he wasn't imposing Sharia law on anybody. So women were wearing two-piece bathing suits, people were drinking beer in sidewalk cafes and wine and smoking and seeing movies that were playing in America and Europe and, stuff like this. People went into the military in Iran, but they did things like, work on the water system in the backcountry places to help the poor farmers, things like that. They weren't running around like the IRGC. They were running around helping the people. So he did keep a military, but they were soft, They weren't a battle-hardened military. Right now, there's fires in 16 states of America. I will kindle fires in and around your cities, is Jeremiah 50:51 prophecy. And you're seeing it beginning now. There's fires approaching Reno, Nevada. I don't know more about than that, but we haven't seen any big cities get fires yet, but we might. LA did, but on the periphery. Nothing major. We haven't seen a big city that has 1 million or more people get burned down. Should I say yet? I think so. In Pennsylvania yesterday, I think, diesel hit $6 a gallon. At 8, you're in trouble. Bad trouble. At $10, $12, really bad trouble. Hamas is talking about a threat Israel gave them. It reads like this: Israel has given Hamas a 3-day ultimatum to stop launching incendiary kites. Otherwise, it will launch a large-scale aerial attack. Well, I told you about the kites yesterday. They got a tail on them that's kilometers long, and we don't know what they're up to. I think they're trying to let the kites fly and then release them when the wind is right to bring them into Israel. And the tail on the kite would be put on fire, and it would come into Israel and burn things down, crops and stuff like that. That's why Israel's doing that. The kites they've been launching have not been on fire, so they're trying to get the people used to it. And no, it's not going to work. So this is not, a regular situation. A kid flying a kite is going to put a tail on the kite of, 6 or 8 feet, not 1,500 feet. Okay. I don't know if they might not have tails that long. They might put a tail with, 1 or 200 or 300 feet. The militias that are backed by Israel in the Gaza Strip are arresting Hamas and treating them the way they treat the people that they arrest. So it's pretty big humiliation. I think it was Hamas was having the people bend down and bark like a dog. I think it was them that were doing this. I can't recall in the details. Uh, so they're treating Hamas the way Hamas treated the people all these years. So that's interesting. Now we got an interesting statement coming from the United States Speaker of the House of Representatives, who said, "We expect to soon enter a new phase in the fight against Iran, and we will continue to work to end it." So I don't know, they're talking about trying to get the war to end. Oh, it'll end one way or the other, but I don't think it's going to end the way they think. Okay, so let me check the live stream and then we'll get into the other part of the broadcast. I'll turn this over. All right, we're going to get into the part of the broadcast about how to live well in Africa at a fraction of what you're spending in America, Canada, Australia, Europe, and other countries. I think you'll find this very interesting. Now, you're always going to be able to find contradictory, people that are going to speak contrary about this. That's always going to be the case. Okay. The criteria that I was searching here is a single person to be able to live comfortably for $1,500 to $2,500 a month. $1,500 would be the minimum. That's living comfortably, not living, in an 8 by 12 room, It would have to be safe to live. I don't think a Muslim majority country would meet that test for any of us, because we would be considered infidels and polytheistic and everything else. Okay. So that was a concern. Okay. It has to be safe regarding crime. Now, any place you go, you're going to have the risk of, you leave a window open on a ground floor apartment, some kid jumps in and grabs a purse or a cell phone and runs away. I mean, you don't do that. You keep your window closed, a place where they'll break your window open when you're home and come in with a gun and rob the place, that's unsuitable. You can't go there. That would be like South Africa, Nigeria, places like that. You can't go to South Africa. There's gangs like crazy over there. You have to have ease of getting a visa, and you need to be able to get something more than, you're allowed to stay here 30 days or 90 days. You got to be able to do better than that, otherwise it's too stressful. They got to have a decent medical system. They got to have an affordable insurance. All right. The countries that came in with the best return on my criteria are Mauritius, Botswana, Namibia, and I really don't know how to pronounce Namibia, and Rwanda. Then you could even get down to Zambia and, Ghana, but I wouldn't go down too far on the list. Okay. When you're talking about Mauritius, it's islands. Okay. Mauritius, they speak Creole, French, and the official language of the country is English. So you go into any government office and you start talking English, they're going to come back at you with English. All the big stores are going to, it's English and English and English. If you want to play games and learn how to speak Creole or French, go ahead. The official language is English. That's all you need to know. Okay? You don't know the complexity of going to any of these countries from Mexico to Antarctica. Don't. Okay? They're all going to insist to use Spanish. They all go live in America and insist America let them speak in Spanish. So they're two-faced. And of course, Brazil uses Portuguese. Don't go to any of these places, okay? And the Caribbean, I suggest you stay away from. The Caribbean states are not going to be cheap for you. You're going to be taken advantage of all over the place. And it's not, there's nothing going on there that's good, okay? Don't, I would say stay away. If you're from New Zealand, Australia, Canada, America, Western Europe, or Israel, stay away from anything from Mexico down to the Antarctica, all the way down to Argentina. Just don't go there. And I would say the Caribbean states are a waste of your time. Okay, Botswana. Okay, so Mauritius is an island. Okay, it is safe. You can get long-term visas. I'm going to cover the details with you. The medical coverage is pretty good. Okay, you don't have a problem. They're nice with the medical. It's a very big tourist attraction to people from France. You can get non-stop flights from Mauritius to Paris. Charles de Gaulle or Orly, probably Charles de Gaulle Airport. And that's important because when you want to go visiting or go home to another country, you just get on a plane and you're in Paris, and from Paris you could go anywhere in the world. Paris is like New York Airport, or any of the large airports, Heathrow. I mean, you go anywhere from Paris. Charles de Gaulle is a massive airport. Okay. That's worth something. Okay, that be able to fly nonstop. The French people are known for not being really polite to people in France. My experience is it's not always that true. Okay, not always. All right. But when they're not in their own country, they're not that way. Okay. The people in Mauritius most likely do not speak French like the people in France. I'm guessing on this. I know people in Morocco, Algiers, and stuff, they don't speak French the way they speak French in France. Okay, what do I mean? Let me see if I could do. I used to know French, but it's to say I'm rusty would be an understatement. Okay, Morocco would be like a bonjour, comment allez-vous? Okay, the people in France would say something more like bonjour, comment allez-vous? They would have all the nasal inflection and all of that stuff. And if you're in France and you don't speak with that type of inflection like they do, bonjour, monsieur, instead of bonjour, monsieur, or je m'appelle Moshe, je m'appelle, they put more emphasis on it, I doubt they do that in Mauritius. Okay, so it would be easier to learn French. French is not a very hard language, believe me. Okay, it's just not. I don't know a thing about Creole, but I think you can learn it easily. I don't know. All right. Now, just to give you the overview, we go to Botswana, and Mauritius is extremely safe. The safety in Botswana is good. In other words, it's good enough. you could get long-term visas and the medical, things like that are good. We'll go into details. Namibia, uh, things are generally good there too. Um, the visa things get a little more complicated. Um, I know that's where they have a lot of the game preserves. I have no interest in helping anybody blow an animal up just to put it on your wall. I think that's sick. The poor things, they're groaning for redemption too. The whole creation does. And I don't particularly like people that go blow them up with their rifle. They go out and buy an $18,000 rifle. I'm serious. A heavy game rifle, and they'll put a $3,000-4,000 scope on it or something like that, and they'll get 300-400 meters away from some poor animal eating something or drinking water, and they'll blow a hole in them and go hang them on the wall. What a stupid thing to do. It's stupid. That's Satan bot type pleasure. Let's kill something. So you might be, if you want to, see wildlife, like you live in a rural area in Namibia, and you might see some, hyenas or lions or leopards or who knows what creeping around on your property. You really can run into that. Now, if you're living in a city that, let's say, has 5,000 or 10,000 people, are you going to get up and walk in the street and you're going to see a mommy lion bringing her 4 cubs down the street? No, you're not. You'd have to be rural. You'd have to be on a ranch house or a farm, and the next place is 1 mile away or something like that. And then they might try venturing around, but they are not gonna come into a city or anything like that. I know in Alaska you see moose try that. That's a moose, okay? A moose is not going into the city to try to ram you with his horns and eat you for lunch. He doesn't eat people. If you're gonna have a trouble with a moose, it's because the moose is scared of you and is defending himself. Okay, he's not hunting you. So the moose is just wandering around the city because he's a dumbbell moose. Okay? But a predatory cat is looking to eat your dog. He'll eat your cat. He'll eat your cow. He'll eat your goats, your sheep, anything you got, he'll eat it. Okay? That's a problem. Now, if you don't got anything like that, is the cat gonna break into your house? And then unlikely. They probably wouldn't go on your porch. They're not gonna look. They're not looking for that kind of stuff. Okay, but if you wanted to see game, that would be the place to go see game. But that doesn't mean you're gonna go, see a hyena or a lion or something and start giving them food and take them home and say, "You're with me now, buddy. We're gonna be friends. We're gonna be best friends." And you can't tame these things. People tame cheetahs like dogs, but they do it when it's a kid. Okay, can you do it? Yeah. They put them in their cars with them and drive them around like they do a dog. I don't think it's a great idea. You don't want to have a fight with a 125-pound cheetah. Okay, you're going to be in bad shape. Okay, you can't kung fu the sucker. You got to Wyatt Earp him. You're not going to go punch and kick this thing. It's not going to pay any attention to it. They're built way tougher than people are. They're designed to jump onto a wild animal bigger than them and hang on with their teeth and claws while the thing bucks and kicks and throws them all over the place, and their ribs aren't going to break, and they're not going to have trouble walking. They're pretty durable. You can't be going and kung fuing them. You got to blow them up with a gun. And if they're going to attack you, kill them. Okay, so we got Rwanda, then we got Zambia, and then we get down to the bottom of the. Wouldn't go to Ghana. It's South Africa. You forget about that one. Don't go there. That's homicide world. I mean, carrying machetes around in the street. You know, you don't want that. Like go move to Sinaloa in Mexico. It's closer and easier. You don't need that. You've heard of the Sinaloa cartel. All right. The water in Mauritius. You got to remember this. And you could get island fever. Island fever is not a disease. It's you get tired of living on the same island and you want to go mainland someplace. So you take a vacation from your vacation place if you could afford it. Just go someplace else in Africa. That's all. It's Mauritius has religious diversity, so it's not a Muslim majority country. They probably are Muslims, but I don't think you're going to see mosques and minarets there either. And if you went to a Muslim majority country, you wouldn't be able to bring a Bible in with you. That's how bad they get in some of them. I got something going on. It's relatively safe, but by that you got to understand that English and the businesses speak English, and we're going to run around with it with English over there easy. So you have no issues whatsoever with uh, the language. You don't have to learn the language. There's no reason to learn the language. I gotta go. This isn't working. Oh, we got it back. I got it back, I think. Somehow it got cut off. That was sabotage. If any of you guys, well, I don't know if they'll do anything about it now because we're back, but somebody did sabotage to us. Let me make sure we're running. I think we are. Stinking rats. Do spiritual warfare on them. I think we're okay. What happened here? I think we're good, or maybe not. Let's see. I don't know. They did it as soon as I walked out of the room, didn't they? So I just hope some of you guys got premium and you go contact them and tell them what happened. Uh, might do some good, I don't know. Okay, so let's get back into it. All right, let me get my place. So, South America, Central America is just about all Spanish. Africa is just about all English. So you can run around Africa speaking English in a lot of different places. Okay, let me get back to where I was. And I'm okay. Um, the immigration system of Mauritius is they'll give you very easily a 1 year visa. And they'll give it to you for free. A lot of other countries are going to charge you a few $100, like 300. It's intended for a long-term tourist. It's not a this stinking iPad's driving me crazy. It just spins around on you. This stupid thing. Okay. So it's designed for long-term tourists. Okay. Um, so you could get a 1 year visa, which is very, very comfortable for you because you don't have to worry about running around getting your visa renewed constantly and stuff like that. All right, I think we saved it. We're back. I don't know, they're attacking the router. So I had to switch networks. Yeah, we're coming under attack. I think we should all pray. My Heavenly Father Jehovah, I pray you establish us so they don't attack us. And they're making us look like clowns, and I pray you would take it out on them so they learn their lesson not to do this again. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can agree with that if you like. So I think we're okay. I'll check it again. Yeah. Looks okay. All right. So we're on Mauritius still. So you have an easy immigration system. You can get 1 year visas for free, and they'll renew them every year, and that's probably about as good as you're going to get. Um, you can get longer term things like retirement visas, stuff like that if you want. You can go through that. But a year to year is pretty okay. Um, so you got to understand it's an island, but you also need to understand that for the tourists there, they're selling they have restaurants where you're going to spend, you know, $25, $30 a head there for the tourists. You don't go to those places. You're out of that. You eat where the locals eat. You go to the open air market and you buy fresh fruits and fresh fish and fresh chicken. And they're loaded with beef over there, I understand. Or maybe that's one of the other countries. But you can get plenty of fresh, you know, you get fish that was caught a few hours ago. If you eat out where the locals eat, you're going to spend very little. You'll probably be spending, you know, $4 or $5 for a meal or something like that. Maybe less. Um, this is predominantly a Christian English speaking nation. Christian English speaking nation. Witness to people. Christianity. It's politically stable. The main city, I believe, is Gaborone, Gaborone. If you want life, you know, you go there. Um, no. Gaborone is in Botswana. Sorry. Let's take a quick look at Botswana. You can also make it in Botswana at 1500, and it is Christian English speaking. Mauritius is English speaking, but lots of different religions. Okay. So it's probably Botswana is predominantly Christian. Okay. Um, your cost of living in Botswana is going to run you $530 a month on average, plus rent, plus rent. Okay. So for $1,500 to $2,000 a month, you're going to live quite comfortably. Um, quite comfortably. Food and with all your other. Go there and you get, I think, a 90-day regular tourist visa, and then you tell them you want to get a residence permit after you stayed on your tourist visa, I believe. Then you need to show them you've got means of support, like a bank statement, your social security or disability statement, or a pension statement that you've got money coming in, and it takes you about 30 days to get your visa. So while you're applying for the visa, you don't have any problems of getting thrown out of the country. But you get you get that. Okay. Um, after 5 years, you can become a resident. and then you could try to become a permanent resident. Being a permanent resident gives you typically all the rights of a citizen, but normally not a passport. Some countries do give you a passport, like America does it to the green card holders, but normally it's not done. Um, so you need to keep your original passport going. But you don't vote, but other than that, you have all the rights of a citizen, typically. Nambia, or Namimbia, I don't even know how you pronounce it, Nambia. Um, that's also a Christian population, English speaking. Okay, so they go to churches, is what they do, right? Um, the official language, of course, is still English. Botswana, Namibia, and Mauritius. Um, there's a low population density in Namibia. Um, it's right next to South, um, but they're completely different countries. It's safe in Namibia. Uh, you'd be able to make it on 1,500 a month in Namibia. Uh, Namibia has something they call a digital nomad visa. That's for people that work online. Uh, Now we go to Rwanda. I'll get into details in a moment. This is just the overview. Uh, Overwhelmingly Christian. So you see, when you're living in an overwhelmingly Christian or a Christian majority place, you're really free to evangelize. You might be able to spread the gospel, the real gospel to them. But Rwanda has a bad reputation from many years ago. Uh, nice medical clinics. They got doctors that are pretty like what you get in your home country. They're actually nice. And they have, MRIs and CAT scans and stuff like that. But if you need really sophisticated work, you need to go to another country. So if, let's say, you're American and you have Medicare, you might have to fly back to the States and use it if you can, which you probably could. The other thing you could do is buy their insurance, and then the insurance in these countries has a provision to evacuate you to another country nearby that has more sophisticated uh, specialists. Okay, like you have a weird disease or you have some sort of unusual broken bone or something and they need to send you to some super specialists that they don't have in their country. Then they evacuate you out. They're pretty good about it. It's expensive, but they're pretty good about it, and they You go to the other place and you stay in the hospital, and then you go back home when you can, and they probably have home health aides, and the insurance is not scam, rip you off in these countries. It's good, but the problem you have in the insurance, if you're 40 or 50 years old, it's not going to be that bad. But if you're 60 or more, the insurance premium, if you can get it, and they'll probably give it to you, is going to be rather expensive. Okay? That's the problem. What is expensive? Well, $300 or more dollars a month. It might actually get up to $3,000 a year. Okay? Which, if you're in America and you're using Medicare and supplemental, spending even $6,000 or $8,000 a year for your supplemental is not unheard of in some places. Getting it for $3,000 a year, isn't bad at all in America. That's considered quite good. So you're not going to really, and you're on you're going to be on their insurance, and you'll have full coverage of everything. But again, that puts money on it, so you're up another 1,500 as I say, well, I only get 800, 900, 1,000. Well, there are people that are going to tell you can go to these very same countries and live on $1,000 a month. Now, is it true or is it clickbait? Well, I've never been to these countries, so I just did the research. I don't know. Just checking. I don't know if it's clickbait or it's real, but it's. I've lived in enough countries to know that for most of you, unless you're familiar with living in other countries, plural, more than one, you're probably not going to be able to do it. You're going to have to go and live with the locals in the local area. Now, you're probably going to make it. In these countries where the crime is pretty low, you're probably going to be able to make it. And you could live with them, and if you're friendly and you talk to them and stuff, they'll, over a brief period of time, have room for you. Maybe a month or 2 months, and then they'll accept you and you'll be in with them. If you know what you're doing, okay? In Mauritius, for instance, what you get there is a lot of the stores close around 6 o'clock in the evening. There's no nightlife. Your nightlife there is in the warm, in the long days, walking on the sand by the beach or sitting outside. There's, which is what you want. You want to, be a disco duck? I mean, what do you want that garbage for, You would have trouble there with the government if you were an alcoholic driving and doing stuff like that, fighting drunk, using drugs, selling drugs, taking drugs, prostitution, and you're not going to have any trouble with these people. What you would do in Mauritius, what is there to do? Surfing, if you're young enough and able, surfing. Walking on the sand by the beautiful beaches there are like gorgeous, world class, maybe some of the best in the world. You can, if you want this stuff, you could go snorkeling. I don't know if you need to be bothering with tank diving. You could go snorkeling, which is easy. You could go in the ocean. You could, I'm sure, inexpensively, when you learn how, go fishing. Probably want to go out with the locals. You wouldn't want to go with a professional tour, because they're going to charge you $500 a day. If you met some locals with little fishing boats, they'd probably take you out for nothing, or give them a couple of bucks and $5 or something. and that sort of thing, or you could buy your own rowboat and go out. In Mauritius, it appears that there's a lot of cars. People own cars, so it must be cheap to buy cars. Now, mind you, in some countries like India, for a car for $2,000. Okay, yeah. So it might be one of those kind of places. Now, $2,000 is a junky car. Maybe $4,000 or $5,000, you could get a new car that's more of a substantial car. I don't know what the gas costs in the island, but I wouldn't worry about getting a car. Um, you could do other things like get an electric bicycle, right? Um, that might work well because where you going? You're not commuting to work. That kind of thing. Electric bicycle with some baskets to go to the store might do the trick. You know. Um, You'll have adequate internet. I don't know if you'll get fiber optic, but you'll get decent internet. Okay. Um, what else? I don't know. It's like for a believer, it sounds like it could be very comfortable because you don't need all this other, garbage lifestyle. You don't need it. You know, it's not necessary for you. You know, so no, I'm still. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I think I'm okay. Um, Hang on a second here. By the way, gold's up to about 4,600 an ounce, up from about 4,000 ish. So it's spiking up a little. I don't exactly know why. It's just, so there's one of them here which has pretty cheap insurance. I think it's Botswana. It has pretty good medical and insurance. Um, I think Botswana's landlocked, though, if I remember correctly. So you don't have the ocean. So you can get cheap insurance in Botswana. So if you have a medical problem, you can get it. Let me see what they're talking about. Let's say 1,000 of the. Okay. What did I get? the wrong? Oh, I opened the wrong one. Okay. The country of Botswana, their currency is indicated by the letter P. I don't know what it means, but what is the value in US dollars of 974 of this currency designated with the letter P? Maybe it's a peso, I don't know. Oh, it's called a pula. It's about $73 a month for good insurance there. Premium insurance. That's cheap. So if some of you are older and you have pre-existing conditions and stuff, you might do better.
I'm confused when you listen here.
What?
I'm confused when you listen here.
Why she's out where?
In the house.
When you left, she was in the house.
Yeah, I asked you to bring her to the office with you, did I not?
Oh,
Oh.
I checked on them. They were fine.
That's not what I asked.
Yeah. They don't the office. I'd have to nail it down, but okay. All right, let's go back into this. Their visa thing in Botswana is a little more complicated than the others, but it's still well within the realm of, easy to do, and you can get it done without a lot of hassle, So it's not a really bad situation. Zambia is another one, but that's getting a little far down the list. Not so sure that you want to go down that far. The healthcare there is acceptable in Zambia if you hang around the big cities. But if you're out in the rural, a not very old person in Zambia will pay $150 to $350 a month US dollars for insurance. Older expats could pay up to $800 a month, which is very high. That's probably going to be out of reach. So for older people, I guess we can just not spend a lot of time on Zambia. Okay, so the Mauritius is in the Indian Ocean. You need to understand that. It's an island. It's Botswana is in South Africa and Zambia. Oh, we're not going to do Zambia. All of these places are basically going to have a tropical climate, and it'll be warm and dry. You're not going to have, I mean, if you had a leather jacket that had no lining in it, that would probably be your winter coat. Okay, but if it's raining in the winter, that wouldn't work. But that's all you'd need. You wouldn't need any real heavy clothing, you know. You'd be maybe on a very cold night, you'd be at 50 degrees, something like that, you know, probably even 55, 60, you know, not that much. If you do Mauritius, you could get stuck with high insurance. It might even get up to, well, insurance on the low side of Mauritius is going to be 300 a month, but that's for real insurance. If you're an older person, then you might wind up at 600 a month, or could even be higher. It's not, in no place are you going to go in the world where they're going to just give you insurance cheap because you showed up. They're probably not going to do that. I don't suggest you buy international insurance because what you're going to get whooped on there or gypped is they're going to tell you they're going to reimburse you and they're going to rip you off, and they're not going to pay the hospital directly. So don't go for that. Okay, that's not good insurance. That's a scam. You're better off buying the insurance in the country. If you want to buy a travel's insurance to cover you for a month or 2 months or something, you know, that's one thing. But generally, I think they're just scamming people. You'd have to make sure it's an insurance where they actually pay the hospital or the doctor, not you. Okay? Because what's going to happen is the hospital's going to tell you, well, this procedure, you know, is going to cost, you know, $1,800, okay? And you're going to have to recover it from your insurance company. You pay us 18. You pay them, and then the insurance company will wind up paying you $600 with all their exclusions. You know, it's a scam. Don't bother with it. Now, if you're like 40 years old, you can probably get an international insurance coverage, a real one, where they'll pay the hospital directly. For 150 to 250 a month. But if you're in your 70s, you might pay triple. Seniors are going to probably get hit. It's going to depend a lot on what your history is, what your pre-existing is, and how old you are. Now, you're going to do better on insurance when you buy it in a country, because the international insurance is for a traveler, and if you're getting treated in Mauritius, it's going to be a heck of a lot cheaper than if you're getting treated in Germany. but your insurance would probably cover you in Germany. But that's probably 3 or 4 times more expensive than what you'd be paying in Mauritius. Now, most of the time, your apartments in these countries are going to run from 350 to 500. Okay, normally that's a 1 bedroom. Normally it's furnished. Normally it's nice. And normally it will not cover your utilities, which could be anywhere from 50 to 150 a month. Utilities would normally include garbage pickup, water, possibly cooking gas, electricity, internet. Okay? They're much less money in these countries than you're used to in Europe or America. Much less. If you're in America and you try to buy private insurance, it's going to cost you a fortune. If you're in America and you get Medicare and you try to add your supplemental on to your Medicare, it's going to cost you the same as these overseas policies cost. So there's not really a big disadvantage to buying it outside of America, you know, versus what you pay in America. Now, you do get Medicare for free, whatever it covers, which usually isn't a lot, but I think the hospitals have to give you life-threatening treatment. Where you get deficient is if it's not life-threatening. Then they could get ugly with you. So what you would have if you went to Botswana or Mauritius is you would be in a not in a punitive religious place. You'd be plenty of Christians running around. You'd probably be able to go to a Bible bookstore and buy a Bible, for instance. You're going to live comfortably. Now, a luxury would be probably a high-rise building, and there's going to be swimming pool, pools, jacuzzi. You might have a sauna. You might have a gym, balcony, things like that, right? Or you can get a house with a swimming pool. So if you were running at a budget of $2,500 or so, I would say in most of these places you'd be able to get yourself a private house with a swimming pool. But if you're by yourself, what do you need that for? Number one. Number two, why are you going overseas and trying to pump up your money just because you can? So you might have to pay $700, $800, $900 for a private house. Okay, that in your own country might cost you, you know, $4,500, $5,000. Big deal. Why are you throwing your money away? Why don't you just go for the 1 bedroom, a nice 1 bedroom, and then you could take trips with the money? Oh, you know, they might stamp something there, but you just walk in. You don't have any problem. Okay. What do you do when you're there? Well, you know, I don't know what you do when you're home, but you're probably not going to go watch football or basketball or baseball. You might see soccer games. some of these countries would have orders if you wanted to go see stuff like that, I suppose. Um, I imagine they have movie theaters that would be in English. Um, these islands have mountains, like 2,500, 3,500